Welcome, my friends. Welcome for another edition of the video productions by the Artelino company. I'm Dieter Manschura. I'm your host for this video, and I happen to be the owner of a small family company located in Bavaria in southern Germany. And we've sold Japanese prints in online auctions since 2001. In this video, I want to present here a few prints by a printmaker from the 19th century, by Kunisada Utagawa. Currently we run the auction number 1702, and I think we have 12 prints by Kunisada Utagawa in the current auction. This video is a little bit more for beginners, and if you're a beginner, prints by this artist or printmaker, Kunisada Utagawa, will be those that you will see very often in online catalogs on the internet. Well, who was he? He was born in 1786 and died in 1865. That was towards the end of the so-called Edo period. The Edo period is nothing else as medieval Japan, medieval Japan. And Kunisada Utagawa, he began as a pupil of Toyokuni I. Toyokuni I was the head of the so-called Utagawa school. Now that sounds confusing, school, but it wasn't a real school. You must imagine this like a commercial print studio, where they produced books and where they produced single prints, all with the same technique of woodblock printmaking by carving characters and images into blocks, one block for each color, very time intensive. But the Utagawa school was basically a commercial enterprise, and the teacher of Kunisada Utagawa, he had made it commercially big. Kunisada was his best student, and after the death of his master, and roughly 10 years in between, where another student of Toyokuni had become the boss of the Utagawa school. Finally, in 1844, Kunisada became the head of this printmaking shop. Let's call it what it actually was. And then he took the name of his master, Toyokuni. A lot of confusion with these Japanese printmakers from the 19th century. They permanently changed their name, and in order to avoid confusion, today in the literature, Kunisada is called Kunisada or Toyokuni III. Kunisada was seen by his contemporaries as the best printmaker, better than Hiroshige, better than Hokusai, better than Kuniyoshi, and he was commercially very successful, and he was very, very productive. It's estimated that Kunisada, under his name, had published roughly 20,000, I repeat, 20,000 different designs, Kunisada prints, an incredible output. I once took a calculator and tried to calculate how many prints Kunisada must have been produced per day, and I think that something came out like 4 per day, absolutely impossible. Therefore, you must imagine this as a kind of a workshop, with the head, the master, and the master had a bunch of apprentices and students, and they did most of the work, and the boss loosely supervised these, made probably the designs themselves, but did not do all the work, all the carving. That's absolutely impossible. That this kind of art making or art craft making contradicts a little bit with our Western idea of the artist as a unique genius, yeah. Actually, this is a kind of strange idea when you look back into history of art making. Already artists like Dürer or Rubens, when they were successful, they had similar workshops with maybe dozens of apprentices who, to large parts, took part in the creation of these artworks. And at that time, nobody saw this as, let's see, not in understanding with the idea of an artist as a genius who has to do everything himself. This idea came up actually in the Western world with the art movement of Romanticism in the 19th century, and even today, contemporary Chinese artists, or also contemporary artists, Damien Hirst, they have their workshops with dozens of students, yeah, who contribute to these works, which are later have the name of the great master. Well, this just a little bit as a sideline for you beginners in Japanese prints, in old Japanese prints, to understand this controversy between art or craft. And Japanese prints of the 19th century, they were a craft, yeah, of very, very high level. You will hardly find today any contemporary artists who are capable of making woodblock prints of the technical level of the 19th century, as it was done in Japan. Okay, but now I promised I wanted to show a few of these prints produced by, published by Kunisada Utagawa. Behind my back you see the first one. And now there's something more I should mention. Today's art collectors and art prints see Kunisada on one side with a lot of, let's say, average prints, yeah, 20,000, but also some real masterworks. And the market with its prices reflects precisely this idea. Therefore, a Kunisada print can be very expensive, $1,000 or more. And this is one of them. However, artelino auctions, I think it has a reserve of $600. Nevertheless, it's one of the best prints by Kunisada. And now I'll show you a few more in the price range, so roughly $100, $150, $200. This is the first one. This shows a kabuki actor smoke with a pipe, yeah, very intricately produced pipe. And now look at another one. This is a kabuki scene from this kabuki play about the Soga brothers. Now compare these two designs. Aren't they a little bit similar in the way how this figure keeps the head and the position of the body? So this is certainly something, yeah, that has a certain repetitive character. Nevertheless, it's perfectly done. It's excellent. Wonderful composition, wonderful colors. I'll show you the other one again. Okay, next one. This shows a large head portrait of a sumo wrestler. And also here you have a similar pipe. Very lovely made, these pipes here. And look at that portrait. Shows a sumo wrestler. Also, this is one of the lesser expensive prints. It has a reserve of $120. Reserve, by the way, that's the minimum bid you have to place in order to get the chance to be the high bidder at the auction end. Well, this is an interesting one, an actor portrait. Actor portraits were, by the way, the main business. Prints for the so-called kabuki theaters, that was the Japanese theater, and that was very popular, like today's films, and these kabuki actors, they were like today's film stars, and there were sometimes problems with censorship. There was Japan during the Middle Ages until 1868 was ruled by so-called shoguns. And every now and then these guys introduced harsh censorship laws against kabuki theaters and against this kind of prints. They regarded it as luxury, as decadent, and well, then printmakers had restrictions, and there were times, tempo reforms, 1841, 1842, so until 1850, when printmakers were not allowed anymore to show kabuki actors. And well, then they tried a trick. They made a landscape series and said these are the landscape prints, but showed an actor. And this is actually from 1860. It may still have been under the influence of some censorship laws, because it's strange. It's called Collection of Popular Birds. Yeah, this was printed as a series of bird prints. Look at that small bird up there. It's a geese, yeah. But in reality, it shows a kabuki actor, but it doesn't show the name of the actor. Yeah, that would have gone too far, and then censorship would have made trouble. But I'm not quite sure. This one is from 1860, and it has a censorship seal from 1860, when the power of the shogunate was already so weak that they were hardly capable anymore to enforce strict censorship laws. Nevertheless, I wanted to mention it because it's so strange for me. It's a collection of popular birds and shows a kabuki actor without name. The last one I wanted to show you, that's also interesting. That's called Flower of Edo. Edo is the old name for today's Tokyo. And in the 19th century, it was a huge metropolis, 1 million inhabitants roughly, and there were very frequent fires. Just imagine all houses made of wood and paper, and the population, the people of Edo, called these frequent fires Flower of Edo. And this is a series titled Flowers of Edo, and it shows one design for each district, for each firefighter district. Yeah, these firefighters were also famous, rather rough guys, and they had everybody had his own district. Each firefighter group had its own district for which they were responsible to fight the fires. And Kunisada, this is rather late, towards the end of his life, made this series Flowers of Edo. Also the design is rather unusual. Anyway, so much about Kunisada. I hope it was not too confusing. And a few of these, I think 12 prints that we have in the current auction. Our auctions always run, not like on eBay, they run over 1 week. And they begin on Sunday, 8 p.m. Central European time. Because I told you at the beginning, we are located in Germany. And they end precisely at 8 p.m. our time. And the next second, the next auction starts. So we have one auction per week. Well, thanks for your patience. And I hope you enjoyed it a little bit, and I hope to see you for our next video. And until then, take care. Goodbye.